I made this great RTI one-page graphic using Google Drawings, which if you haven't used, you should use. It's great. This part of the graphic that I made, I decided to keep separate from the other part, which you'll get in the next slide. This part is just what you think of when you want to plan the tasks that your students are going to complete. So you're going to take some sort of formative assessment. So either you're going to do exit tickets, you can do quiz grades, you can do pre-assessment grades, whatever it is that you have that you're going to formatively assess your students, and then you're going to sort them into groups. And so this could be for one topic. So this is for one topic for maybe one unit. You don't want to go any bigger than that. So you'll have some formative assessment data. You should have almost all of your students falling in tier 2. So immediately you have tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. Tier 1's a small group. They're the students that are going to grasp the content in 1 or 2 iterations. So they probably don't need to do the extra practice. They could probably test out. Those are the kids that are in the class. Despite the level of the class, you always have those few top-notch kids who just get it. So that's tier 1. Tier 2 is where you're going to have most of your students, because this is where most of the students' needs are already being met. So as a whole group instruction, you have students that are being instructed on a topic, and they maybe need the extra practice after, or they might need to review some of the concepts, but generally they do okay without extra help, without the teacher really intervening or having to scaffold too much throughout the lessons. So then you have the tier 3 students who need to be reached with more intensive teaching and reteaching strategies. These are kids that maybe are in your class, just whatever the content is, but they're in your class and they have a 6th grade reading level, and they're in 9th or 10th grade, or they're in 7th grade and they are on a 3rd grade reading level. So you kind of have this disparity of skills, and putting the students in the 3 categories is going to help you meet the needs of all the students within each category. So for tier 1 students, you're going to want to think about, if I'm here reviewing a topic, tier 1 students probably don't need to do the rote memorization review. So you're going to have to think about, how can I take something and just amp it up a little bit so that my tier 1 students are extended? Is there some sort of project you guys didn't get to? Maybe you think that as your whole class isn't going to really be able to handle a certain worksheet you had, because you realize it's a little bit more difficult. Those are the things you can throw to the tier 1 group, because they're the ones that are going to be able to independently work through it without needing you and without having to rely heavily on you. And then that frees you up to help the other students. So then tier 2 students may need you a little bit, but for the most part, they should just be independently practicing. So thinking about, I have this worksheet that I'm going to use, I was going to give to the entire class, but now tier 1 students are going to do something else. Instead of doing extra work, tier 1 students are going to do a replacement work. Then the tier 2 students can just work on the worksheet, or have a middle ground activity for students to engage in practice independently without you. And then the tier 3 students are I call them my ducklings. So they're the small group intervention and remediation with the teacher. Hands-on activities and learning tools are usually required and necessary. Scaffolding and reteaching of skills from prior grades. Maybe you just notice that you have a group of students on a certain topic that are completely missing a critical piece of background knowledge. So while you have your tier 1 students being extended, you have your tier 2 students practicing concepts, maybe working with a partner or a group, and then your tier 3 students, you're filling in that background knowledge with them in a small group. So you have tier 1 and tier 2 working independently, and then you have an opportunity to work in tier 3 with a small group, keeping an eye on the rest of the class, but spending most of your time effectively with the group that needs you the most. And then forcing the other students to be a little bit more independent helps you use your class time a little bit more wisely as a teacher.